Now I'm going to cover some of the news this hour because he's such an interesting person. He can talk basically on any subject that we raise, and he's a Genesis talk show host, and he's a pharmacist by trade and by degree, and now he is a nutritional pharmacist based in Boulder, Colorado. Believes that most prescription drugs are toxic and unnecessary, and I really enjoy talking to him and listening to him because so much of the research he talks about is stuff that I've separately done my own research on. He just specializes in this area, so he can take us even further in our understanding. And I wanted to look at one of the biggest places they attack us is through the statin drugs, through the sodium fluoride, through the GMO, what the studies show, what we know, what the larger battle plan of big pharma is. And we'll also take some of your calls. I know you're holding. They'll be all over the map, but Ben can speak to all of that. But, Ben, what do you make of the fact that the honeybees, more than half of them are dead in the U.S. and Western Europe? It's a cocktail of cell phones. Also, the BT corn, it's been confirmed, grows at 1,000 times normal levels, a natural pesticide in it, a fungus. The honeybees are like humans. They will still eat it. A lot of GMO pigs and dogs and other things won't eat because their olfactory nerves are so good. Honeybees will eat the pollen. I mean, is it just that? And if the honeybees are dying, what does that mean for us? So many different diseases are off the charts. I was at Talkers with you. I first want to get your take on that, but just throwing out some of the things we'll talk about. Big elite confab of talk show hosts from around the country and CEOs and program directors. And I noticed that when I brought up the fact that Western thought waves have lowered and that IQs have lowered, a few of them said I was a liar, and I went out on my iPhone, microwaving myself during the break. I'm addicted, folks, but I was already saturated in there by Wi-Fi, so I was already in an oven of it. And I looked it up, and there was all these mainstream articles even admitting that IQs have dropped, so they've lowered the metric on the IQ test and lowered the quality of the general SATs and others, and also that generally, to be technical, our brainwaves haven't dropped. Overall, it's that we're in a lower brainwave state more often. So, but if you average it together, we're in the lower state more often. They're still able to go into a high brainwave associated with creativity and spiritual thoughts and intuitiveness, but generally, well, the average adult, more than 5 hours, average youth, now more than 6, playing video games, watching TV. The studies are all on record that it lowers brainwaves to a near sleep state. Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, and talking to you, I was amazed that you were so well informed on that subject as well. We even had some arguments with talk show hosts out in the parlor. I mean, who could deny that physical intelligence, not just education, has dropped in America? We've gone from number 1 to almost number, 46 or something now? Guys, look up U.S. and international education rankings. Ben Fuchs, good to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Alex. And there's so much that you mentioned that is interesting to cover. But the most important point I think that we should recognize is, yes, honeybees are dying and the water is polluted. There's drugs in the water and the air is toxic and radiation leaking into the oceans. There's all these places that it seems like the environment and the world itself is falling apart. But there's one place where we can take control, and that is over our health. And that is my specialty. And I'm telling you, Alex, and I'm telling you, listeners, there is so much we can do to improve the state of our health. If we are sick, then we are not able to withstand these abuses and the things that are happening to us. There's no way we can care about government intrusion in our lives if we're suffering from colon disease, or if we're suffering from lung disease, or we're suffering from depressed immunity. So job number 1. And by the way,
you're 50 years old, and I mean, you look like you got the body of a 25-year-old.
Well, anybody can have the body of a 25-year-old. It's job number 1 to exploit the healing power of the human body. I have seen the most incredible, dramatic things happen to blood pressure dropping and weight dropping and people's skin improving, and the most incredible markers of health that can only be called miraculous by mainstream medicine. But what, as I say on my radio program, is business as usual for the human body, because the body heals itself. It's resistant to disease, and it's designed to take stressors and use those stressors as incentives to build. When you break a bone, Alex, the bone is stronger at the point of the break than it was before it was broken. And to me, that is emblematic of how the body responds.
Well, that's like building muscle. That's like making yourself problem solve. It's frustrating at first.
Everywhere. Correct, everywhere. The brain forms a tighter wiring as you problem solve. As you have stresses in your life, be they physiologic stresses or emotional stresses or mental stresses, the body is designed to become better in response to those stresses. And that's what we want to understand and be able to exploit. So when I see stresses and when I see problems in the environment and I see all the pollution that's going on in the world and I see it looks like the world's falling apart, to me that's an opportunity to exploit the healing power of the human body. But
I agree. If we use the pressure against us by the globalists and make it fun to fight them, then it becomes exciting and not a desperate chore. But I still am in the phase, and we have a lot of solutions as well, and we're going to talk about them coming up, of trying to get folks to recognize that there's a problem to begin with, to get them out of the lower state of thinking, to get them out of a couch potato spectator area. So let's talk a little bit about your overall view of the Talkers event where I was the keynote speaker this weekend. And one of the few things folks didn't believe, that the IQs have actually dropped, even though you can just search that, it's all over the news, and that people are spending more time in an unnatural sleepwalking level of brainwaves.
Well, first of all, hats off to you for entering into the belly of the beast, because that's exactly where you were. And as you said in your talk, you raised an interesting point. You said, if you guys think, when you were talking to the talk show host, you were saying, if you guys think that you're going to enter the New World Order and get patted on the head and become financially successful and become celebrities and not have your heads cut off, then you're missing the point of the New World Order, because you guys are just as expendable as anybody else. And I commend you for saying that right there, right down the street from Fox News and NBC and ABC and all those other folks. So thank you very much for being there, and thank you for saying that to all those people. As far as brainwaves go, you've got 4 main brainwaves. You've got theta waves, you've got beta waves, you've got alpha waves, and then you have delta waves. Your creativity occurs in the theta and alpha state, but in the alpha state, you're very receptive to messages, to messaging, and that's why when you drive by the Golden Arches, you feel like you need to go in and get French fries even though you weren't hungry, because when you were watching the commercial, your brain slowed down into this alpha state and you were receptive and suggestive to those messages. Hypnotists know this well, and this process of hypnosis and lowering brain waves is exploited dramatically by marketers and by advertisers ever since the days of Edward Bernays, who came up with the so-called Torches of Freedom marketing campaign that used forced women or induced women to smoke cigarettes. This manipulation of brains and manipulation of the human body and manipulation of biochemistry that began at the early 20th century has now reached a fever pitch. And that's one of the reasons why we have Obama as a president today, because he understood better than anybody else. In fact, his political campaign will be used as a case study for decades to come on how to use social networking, how to use computers, how to use high tech in order to manipulate and convince people to do what they didn't think that they were going to do.
Ben Fuchs, so incredible. Finish up with that. We'll take a few calls, and we're going to get into solutions with Ben Fuchs. I'm going to start having him up frequently. I love him just like Mike Adams. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we've got to postpone our regular broadcast for a minute or so. It's all over the news. Everyone's scared. It's so frightening. You know, they've been putting out alerts. The new alert system isn't just general fear-mongering on the news. They send little tailored, non-specific things about, there are people talking about freedom. They want to kill cops, have local meetings outside Austin in Bandera. The sheriff's scared. He says, there aren't any of these sovereign citizens around I know of, but they're so scary they might have Ron Paul stickers. It's a way to just demonize a group. See, they're moving away from the Muslims and the turbans and the beards to now there's domestic groups. There's going to be a new Oklahoma City any minute. Oh my gosh, they're going to blow everything up. They're dangerous. They're almost as dangerous as those Amish selling milk to their neighbors. And they say in Montana, the National Guard got to call the Army out when it's not the Mexican troops killing everybody on the border and all the mass graves. No. He was weaving and ran from police. They don't know why, and so they're locking Montana down and calling out the Army. The Army, because they heard from neighbors he might be a dun-dun-dun survivalist. Let's say the guy's a bank robber. We don't know. The point is the hyperventilating, the every news channel. There's a guy who doesn't like the government. He's in Montana. Help us. I'm sorry, going back to Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. This is all part of the hyping where they create a fetish of fear I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Getting back to the brainwave situation you were talking about.
Alex, when you're scared, number one, you don't do your best thinking, but number two, your stress hormone levels go up and your immune system drops. And that's what you want to be so careful of. If you are under stress and you're worried and you're fearful and you have anxiety levels, high anxiety levels, you are not able to withstand the E. coli. You're not able to withstand the drugs in the water. You're not able to withstand the radiation that's in the water and in the fish and in the food. So what you want to do is you want to make sure, Matthew 10:16, wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. You want to know what's going on. You want to not be stupid. You want to understand the manipulation that's occurring all around us and make absolutely sure you are taking care of your health using nutrition, using nutritional supplementation, and for God's sake, disengaging from the machine by not eating the crap. Every time you drive by Taco Bell, you want to think, that's the terrorist. You know, the terrorist isn't necessarily the guy in a turban who's coming on the plane. It's the tacos, and it's the fast food, and it's the processed food, and it's
We're
the
not
cereals.
taught to see the poison in the water, the frequency pollution. We're not taught to see the real things that are really attacking our bodies.
Right. That's the thing that you want to be able to withstand. If you want to be powerful, to be able to take care of, to be able to withstand the abuses that are occurring in our environment, job number one is to not eat the crap, is to make sure you're taking care of your health using nutrition and nutritional supplementation, making sure you're moving your body around. You know, people didn't get cancer and heart disease to the degree they did, to the degree we're getting it today 150 years ago, because they were chopping wood, and they were walking to the store, and they were out farming, and they were moving their lymphatic system, and they were exercising, and they were breathing clean air. And so what we want to make sure we're doing today is we're understanding maximally how our bodies work. And that's to me, that's the biggest crisis we have, is this ignorance over our human bodies, this incredible 100 trillion cell machine that we are gifted with for 100 years to 120 years. We get to have possession of this amazing healing system, and we don't even know where our pancreas is or what our pancreas does. And this ignorance around the human body and this ignorance around how we treat the human body has got to stop, because until it does stop, we're going to be nothing but fodder for this machine new world order that is bent on our enslavement and our turning us all into robots. It becomes incumbent upon us all to understand how our bodies work and to understand how to take care of our bodies. And you know from listening to my program and from talking this weekend that I'm a big believer in nutritional supplementation. You absolutely have to understand how to use nutritional supplements correctly. You know, Alex, 62% of Americans use nutritional supplements, but do you think of that 62%, how many do you think really know how to use a nutritional supplement, how to incorporate nutritional supplements in a synergistic fashion? And that's why I like nutritional supplement systems so well.
Well, we're going to talk about that, some solutions, and just give some examples of what prescription drugs that are being pushed on us.
Perfect example is the statin drugs that you were talking about. That's a perfect example. Do you know to this day there has not been one single definitive study that connects cholesterol to elevated blood cholesterol to atherosclerosis, which is a leading cause of death, the leading cause of death in this country to this day, and it's not for lack of searching for it. Yet if you go to the Midwest and you go back east, you talk to people about cholesterol, most people still believe that their elevated cholesterol has to be stopped and has to be controlled to the point that they need to take poison prescription drugs to knock it down.
All right, Pharmacist, Ben Fuchs, stay there. Let's talk about some of the most deadly prescription drugs out there. By the way, Dr. Blaylock, top brain surgeon, agrees with you. He says, you are insane to take statins. You know why? The brain is almost entirely the solid part cholesterol. And